The jungle was alive with strange sounds. Thick purple vines hung from tall, glowing trees. Silver mist rolled low across the ground, and glowing insects danced in the air like living stars. A lone human walked through this alien forest, his boots sinking into the soft moss with every step. His name was Jack Carson, an engineer from Earth who had crash-landed on this unknown planet 3 days ago. Jack's small ship had burned out during entry. His comms were dead, his power core cracked, and the only thing that worked was his hand scanner. He was tired, hungry, and more than anything, alone. Every shadow seemed to move. Every whisper in the wind sounded like something watching him, but Jack kept moving. He had to find the fallen probe that caused the crash. If he could reach it, he might repair it and send a distress signal to orbit. The scanner beeped, showing faint energy traces ahead. "Almost there," he muttered, wiping the sweat from his forehead. As he reached a clearing, he froze. The probe was there, half buried in vines, its metal burned and cracked. Sparks jumped from the sides. He knelt down, pulling out his tools, and started working quickly. But then he heard it, a low sound, not wind, not an animal. A soft, deep purr. Jack stopped. His heart beat faster. He slowly turned around. Between the trees, he saw movement, something tall and shining under the soft light. A figure stepped out. It wasn't human. She looked like a woman, tall, slim, and graceful, but her skin shimmered with faint fur that caught the light like silver dust. Her eyes glowed amber, large and alive, watching him with sharp curiosity. Her ears were pointed, twitching at every sound. She moved like a cat, smooth and silent. Jack stood up, his voice shaking. Hi there," he said carefully, raising his hands to show he wasn't a threat. The alien girl tilted her head, studying him. Her tail swayed slowly behind her, curious but cautious. He took a small step back. "I don't mean any harm," he said, trying to smile. "I'm just fixing this thing." She blinked, then took a step closer. Her feet made no sound on the ground. Jack could see faint patterns glowing under her skin, like veins of light. She stopped right in front of him, close enough that he could feel the warmth coming from her body. "What are you?" he whispered. She stared at him for a moment. Then her lips curved into a small smile. Her voice came out soft, almost like a song. "Grrr." Jack blinked. "A what?" She repeated slower this time, her tone purring like a melody. "A grrr," Jack frowned, completely lost. "Is that your name? Your species? Your sound effect?" The girl didn't answer. She only tilted her head again, amused by his confusion. Her eyes narrowed slightly, studying his face like he was the alien, not her. Then very slowly, she reached out her hand and touched his chest right over his heart. Jack froze. Her hand was warm, her fingers soft but strong. She seemed fascinated by his heartbeat. Man," she said softly, her voice uncertain, testing the word. Jack blinked again. "Yes," he said. "Human. I'm human." She smiled, a wide, toothy grin that made him take a small step back. Her fangs were small but sharp. Still, there was no threat in her eyes, only curiosity. She pointed at herself again. "Grrr," she said proudly. Jack sighed. "Okay, Grrr, nice to meet you." But then the forest went quiet, completely silent. Even the glowing insects froze in midair. The air changed, thicker, heavier. The girl's ears twitched and her smile faded. She turned her head sharply toward the dark side of the clearing. Jack felt a chill crawl up his spine. "What's wrong?" he whispered. The girl's tail went still. Her claws slowly slid out from her fingers with a faint metallic sound. She growled low in her throat, not at him but at something in the shadows. From the darkness came another sound, a deep rumble, like thunder mixed with breathing. Then a pair of eyes appeared, red, wide, and filled with hate. Jack stepped back. "Oh no," the alien girl hissed softly, pushing him behind her. Her fur bristled, glowing faintly blue. "Stay," she said, her voice no longer soft but fierce. The creature stepped into the light, a massive beast, four-legged, covered in black scales. It was like her, but monstrous. Jack realized something then. The girl wasn't the danger, she was the warning. The roar shook the ground. Dust rose from the soil and the air filled with the smell of metal and smoke. The massive creature stepped forward, its red eyes locked on Jack. Its body was huge, like a mountain of muscle covered in rough black scales that glowed faintly under the alien light. Its claws were long and sharp, dragging through the dirt as it moved. Jack stumbled backward, tripping over a root. His breath came fast. What is that thing?" he whispered. The alien girl didn't look back. Her body was tense, her glowing fur standing on end. She growled deep in her throat, a strange, powerful sound that echoed across the clearing. The monster paused, its head tilting slightly. It knew her. Jack could feel the energy in the air. It was like two storms facing each other. The girl's golden eyes blazed brighter, and she took a step forward. "Go," she said quietly without turning. Jack hesitated. "Go where? Hide," she snapped, her tail flicking sharply. He didn't argue. He crawled behind the remains of the probe, trying to stay low. The ground shook again as the beast roared, a blast of hot wind hitting him like a wave. He peeked out just in time to see the alien girl leap high into the air, claws extended. She struck the monster's face with a furious scream. Sparks flew as her claws met scales. The creature swung one massive paw, sending her flying into a tree. Jack gasped, "No!" But she wasn't done. She stood again, blood shining on her arm, and roared back, a sound that made Jack's heart race. The beast froze for a second. It wasn't just noise. It was a command. The girl's voice grew deeper, wild, powerful. The very ground trembled. The creature hesitated, whining like a confused animal. Jack realized she wasn't just fighting it, she was trying to control it. "Stay down," she shouted in her own strange tongue, her voice filled with energy. But the creature resisted. It lunged forward again, faster this time. Jack didn't think. He grabbed a broken pipe from the probe and ran out. "Hey, over here!" he yelled. He swung the pipe at the creature's side. It was like hitting a wall of stone, but it distracted the beast for just a moment. The girl seized the chance. She jumped again, claws glowing blue, and slashed across the creature's neck. The beast roared in pain, shaking the trees. Then it stumbled backward and crashed into the jungle with a loud thud. Silence followed. Smoke rose from the creature's wounds as it slowly disappeared into the shadows. Jack dropped the pipe, breathing hard. "Is it dead?" he asked. The alien girl turned toward him, her chest rising and falling quickly. Her eyes glowed softer now, her fur slowly dimming. "No," she said quietly. "It go back." "Not dead." Jack looked at her in awe. She was hurt, bleeding from her shoulder, but she stood tall, strong and proud. "You saved me," he said softly. She tilted her head again, confused by the words. Then she smiled faintly and said, "Save." "Grrr job," Jack laughed weakly. "So grrr means?" "Protector." She didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward him, limping slightly. She touched his arm gently, then pointed at the dark forest. "More," she said. "Many more." Jack's smile faded. "More like that one." She nodded. "Bad grrr," she said. "Wild." Then she placed her hand on her chest again. "Good grrr." Jack understood now. There were two kinds, wild ones and her kind, the good ones. But why were the wild ones attacking? He needed answers. As he looked around, he saw the probe again, still flickering. A faint hum came from it, a signal pulsing through the air. He frowned. Could the signal be disturbing the creatures? The alien girl followed his gaze, eyes narrowing. She pointed to the probe and hissed softly. "Bad stop," Jack nodded. "Yeah, I think you're right." But before he could move, another roar echoed through the jungle. Then another. The sounds grew closer, more than one, maybe 3 or 4. The ground shook again. The girl's eyes widened. "Come," she said urgently, grabbing his hand. Jack had no time to argue. She pulled him into the dense forest, running fast and silent through vines and mist. The glowing leaves brushed against his face as they moved deeper into the unknown. Behind them, the roars grew louder. The wild grrrs were hunting, and somewhere in the darkness, something much worse was waking up. Rain started to fall as they ran through the glowing forest. The air turned thick and wet, lightning flashing across the purple sky. Every rumble of thunder sounded like a growl from above. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, his breath short as he tried to keep up with the alien girl. Her glowing fur lit the path, guiding him through the darkness. They ran until the ground sloped down toward a rocky ridge. The girl stopped suddenly and pointed to a dark opening in the cliffside. "There," she said in her strange accent, her voice low but firm. Jack followed her into the cave. It was cool and dry inside, and the sound of rain echoed softly at the entrance. He leaned against the wall, gasping for air. "Thank you," he said between breaths. "You saved me again." The girl tilted her head, her eyes reflecting the faint light from the rain outside. She seemed curious about everything, His clothes, his voice, even the small flashlight on his belt. When he turned it on, her pupils shrank and she made a surprised sound, half hiss and half laugh. Jack smiled weakly. Yeah, it's called a light, see? He pointed it toward the wall, where it revealed old carvings. Strange symbols burned into the rock. They looked ancient, spiraling and sharp. What are these? He asked. She looked at the symbols for a long time, her face serious now. Old, she said slowly. Before Grrr time? Before your kind? Jack asked. She nodded. Bad things, big fire. Skyfall, he frowned. Skyfall. He remembered his ship's crash, the smoke, the explosion. Could it have happened before, long ago? Maybe humans weren't the first to fall here. The girl walked closer, sitting down near him. She touched the light again, then pointed at his chest. Hummin', she said softly. Yes, Jack said. Human from Earth, my ship broke. She frowned slightly. Earth? She repeated the word slowly, tasting it. Then she smiled. Human. Far from home, Jack nodded sadly. Yeah, very far. There was a moment of silence. The rain outside grew heavier, water running down the rocks like silver veins. The cave flickered with dim reflections. Jack could see her clearly now, her face calm, her eyes deep gold. She was beautiful in a wild, strange way. He pointed to himself again. Jack, she blinked. Jack, he smiled. Yes, Jack. Then he pointed at her. You? She hesitated as if unsure she should answer. Finally, she placed a hand on her chest. Lyra? Lyra, Jack repeated softly. That's a beautiful name. She tilted her head again, her ears twitching. Beautiful? She asked. It means good, Jack explained simply. Nice. She smiled a little, showing her sharp teeth. Jack. Nice too. They both laughed quietly, the tension easing for a short moment. But then a deep sound echoed outside the cave, distant but haunting. A howl, long and sad, answered by another. The wild Grrrs were still hunting. Lyra's smile vanished. She stood up, her ears moving sharply. They come, she said. Jack looked toward the entrance. We can't fight them again, not like before, he said. She nodded. Hide. Quiet. They turned off the light and the cave went dark. Only faint blue moss glowing on the walls. The sound of footsteps came from outside, heavy, slow, sniffing. Jack held his breath. Lyra crouched beside him, her hand resting on his arm, telling him silently not to move. A shadow passed the entrance. The creature's glowing red eyes scanned the darkness. Jack could see its teeth shining, its nose twitching as it tried to catch their scent. Lyra held her breath too. After a long, tense minute, the beast turned away. Its steps faded into the distance. Only then did Jack exhale. He looked at Lyra. Her hand was still on his arm, her claws slightly out. She looked at him with calm eyes and whispered, Safe. Now. Jack smiled weakly. You're incredible, you know that? She blinked, confused by the word. Incredi? It means strong, he said softly, and brave. She smiled again, but this time there was something softer in her eyes, something almost human. You, not weak, she said. You run fast, Jack laughed quietly. Thanks. I try. For the first time since he crashed, Jack didn't feel alone. The storm outside slowly faded and the night grew quiet. They sat near the cave entrance, watching the glowing rain fall on the jungle leaves. Lyra looked up at the sky and whispered, Stars sleeping? Jack followed her gaze. Yeah, he said. Stars are sleeping. But when they wake, maybe they'll see us. She turned to him, curious. You want stars to see you? Jack smiled faintly. No. I just want someone to know we're still alive. Lyra nodded slowly, understanding more than her words could say. Then she curled her tail around her knees, resting beside him. Tomorrow, she said softly, we move. Move where? Jack asked. She looked deeper into the jungle. To home. Her voice was quiet, but her eyes glowed with meaning. There was something waiting for them out there, something big. And Jack could feel it too. Whatever home meant for her, it might be the key to saving both of them. Outside, the jungle hummed again. The night was far from over. When dawn touched the alien sky, the forest glowed gold and blue. The rain had stopped and steam rose from the wet ground. Jack opened his eyes slowly, feeling the warmth of the soft moss under him. Lyra was already awake, crouching near the cave entrance, her sharp eyes watching the jungle like a silent guardian. For a moment, Jack just looked at her. The morning light made her silver fur shimmer. She moved quietly, like part of the forest itself. He still couldn't believe she had saved him twice. When she noticed him watching, she smiled faintly. "You sleep loud," she teased. Jack chuckled. "Yeah, humans do that sometimes." Lyra tilted her head. "Man, strange," she said with a soft laugh. Then her expression changed, serious again. "We go soon. Not safe here." Jack stood up, stretching his sore legs. "Yeah, I guess they're still out there, huh?" Lyra nodded. She walked outside and touched the ground with her hand, feeling the dirt. Her ears twitched, her tail went still. "They close," she said quietly. 3, maybe 4. Jack swallowed. "The wild ones?" "Yes," she whispered. "Hunting. Always hunting." He looked around the cave, grabbing his small tool bag and damaged scanner. "Then we move. Lead the way." Lyra smiled slightly at his courage. "You follow," she said, and together they stepped into the misty morning. The jungle was alive again. Bright birds flew through glowing leaves and tiny creatures jumped between branches, but under all the beauty was danger. Every sound felt heavier now. Every crack of a branch made Jack's heart beat faster. Lyra moved ahead, crouching low, her eyes scanning everything. She was quiet, careful, perfect at hiding. Jack tried to copy her, but his human boots weren't made for stealth. She looked back at him once, her tail flicking in mild amusement. "Too loud," she whispered. "Sorry," Jack whispered back, smiling awkwardly. "We don't have tails for balance." She blinked at him, confused, then gave a soft laugh that echoed gently through the trees. Man, funny. But the laughter died quickly when they reached a small clearing. The air was cold here. Jack noticed deep claw marks on the trees, fresh ones. The ground was torn apart as if something had fought here recently. Lyra crouched beside one of the marks, running her claw through it. "Bad grrrs," she said quietly. "They change." "Not same anymore." Jack knelt beside her. "Change how?" She looked at him, eyes sad. "Dark light from sky. It touched them. Make them sick. Wild." Jack frowned. "Dark light?" He pulled out his broken scanner and turned it on. The screen flickered, showing strange radiation waves coming from the direction of his crashed probe. His stomach dropped. "No." Lyra noticed his face. "You know this?" she asked sharply. He hesitated. "It's my fault," he said quietly. "My probe. It's leaking energy. It must be what's changing them." Her eyes hardened for a moment. "Man brings sickness." Jack looked down. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to explore, to learn. I didn't know it would hurt anyone." Lyra stared at him for a long time. Then her gaze softened. "You fix?" He nodded firmly. "Yes, I'll fix it. I promise." She stood up and offered her hand. "Then we go," she said simply. Jack took her hand and they started moving again. But as they crossed the clearing, a low growl rose behind them. Lyra froze. Jack turned slowly. 3 red eyes glowed in the fog. Then came another sound, footsteps. "Heavy, fast, close, run," Lyra shouted. They dashed through the trees, branches whipping at their faces. The roars followed, louder, closer. Lyra grabbed Jack's arm and pulled him up a slope. Her claws dug into the soil as she climbed with inhuman speed. Behind them, one of the beasts lunged, snapping its jaws just inches from Jack's leg. He swung his tool bag, hitting its snout. The creature howled in rage, but Lyra turned and slashed its eye, forcing it back. "Come," she yelled. This way. They broke through a wall of thick vines and entered a hidden path covered in blue moss. The beast tried to follow, but hesitated, whining as if afraid of something inside. Jack collapsed against a rock, breathing hard. Why did they stop? Lyra looked at the glowing moss. "Old path," she said, "sacred. Badgrano enter." Jack looked around. The air here was calm. He could hear faint whispers of water and see soft light deeper inside the path. "Where does it go?" Lyra smiled slightly. "Home," she said. Jack blinked. "You're home?" She nodded. "Grrr, home, you come." "You see?" Jack smiled faintly. "Yeah, I'll come. Lead the way, Lyra." She looked at him for a moment, her golden eyes reflecting light like fire. "Then hunt ends soon," she said, but in her voice there was something more, hope, and a small fear that what waited at home might not be the same as she remembered. They walked on, side by side, deeper into the glowing passage. Behind them, the wild grrrs howled once more, echoing like a warning across the jungle. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The tunnel led them deep beneath the forest floor. The air was cool and heavy, filled with the sound of dripping water and distant echoes. Strange blue moss glowed softly along the walls, lighting their way like tiny stars. Jack followed close behind Lyra, careful not to slip on the smooth stone path. After hours of walking, the tunnel widened. A faint hum filled the air, a sound like wind moving through hollow trees. Then Jack saw light ahead. Not sunlight, but something warmer. As they stepped out of the passage, his eyes widened in disbelief. They stood at the edge of a vast underground city. Giant crystal roots hung from the ceiling, glowing golden and blue. Houses carved from stone formed rings around a deep lake that shimmered with soft light. The air smelled of fruit and metal. Alien figures moved quietly between structures, tall, fur-covered beings with glowing eyes. Grrrs. Lyra turned to him, her expression calm but proud. "Home," she said softly. Jack could hardly speak. This is amazing." But as soon as they entered the open area, silence fell. Dozens of Grrrs stopped what they were doing. Their golden eyes locked onto Jack, filled with suspicion and confusion. Some growled low, claws twitching. Jack froze, lifting his hand slowly. Come in peace," he said nervously. Lyra stepped forward quickly. "No hurt," she said to them in her native tongue. Her voice carried authority, strong and sharp. The others hesitated, whispering among themselves. Then a deep, older voice came from the shadows. "Lyra," it said slowly, heavy with weight. From the far side of the chamber, a tall Grrr stepped forward. His fur was darker, streaked with gray, and his shoulders were broad like a warrior's. His golden eyes glowed faintly with wisdom and warning. "Father," Lyra said quietly. Jack blinked. "Father?" The older Grrr studied the human for a long time before speaking again. "You bring outsider to sacred home," he said in a low, rumbling voice. "Why?" Lyra bowed her head. "He helped me," she said simply. "Saved me from bad ones," the elder growled softly. "Man," he said, testing the word like it was poison. "You caused skyfire." Jack froze. "Wait, you mean the crash?" "That wasn't—" But Lyra raised her hand to calm him. She looked at her father, eyes full of sadness. "He not bad. His skyfire hurt, yes, but he fix." The elder narrowed his eyes. "Fix?" Jack stepped forward, trying to be brave. "Yes, sir," he said. "I didn't mean to cause harm. My probe is leaking. It's changing your people, making them wild. But I can stop it if I can reach it." Murmurs spread among the crowd. The elder's expression didn't soften. Many words. "No proof," he said coldly. Lyra turned sharply toward the others. "He fight for me," she said loudly. "He protect, he bleed. No wild Grrr could do that." The crowd fell silent. Her voice carried fire and truth. The elder looked at her, then at Jack. His golden eyes glowed brighter. "You trust him?" Lyra nodded. "Yes." A long silence followed. Finally, the elder sighed deeply. "Then he live." "For now." Jack let out a shaky breath of relief. Lyra smiled faintly at him. "Come," she said. "You rest." She led him through the colony. As they walked, Grrr children peeked from behind walls, whispering about the strange Who-Man. Jack smiled at them, waving gently, and they giggled before hiding again. The warmth in that moment eased his nerves. They entered a small dwelling made of smooth stone and soft vines. Inside, faint lights glowed from crystal fragments hanging from the ceiling. "You stay here," Lyra said. "Safe." Jack sat down, looking around. "This place is beautiful," he said quietly. "You built all this?" Lyra nodded. "Long time ago. Before war. Before bad light." He looked up at her. "That energy. The one changing the wild ones. It's my fault. I can't undo what happened, but I can fix the probe. I promise." Lyra looked into his eyes for a long time. "Promise, strong word," she said softly. "I keep mine," Jack replied. She smiled faintly. "Then we go soon." "Father not help, but I will." Before he could answer, a deep alarm echoed through the tunnels, a long, low sound that shook the ground. Grrrs rushed outside, shouting in their language. Lyra's ears went up instantly. "They come," she said. Jack stood. "The wild ones?" She nodded. "Too many." Outside, roars filled the cavern. The ground trembled. Rocks fell from above as shadows moved beyond the glowing crystals. Red eyes appeared in the distance, one after another, shining through the mist. Jack's heart raced. "How many?" Lyra grabbed a spear from the wall. "Enough to end us." Then she looked at him, fierce but calm. "Time to be Grrr, Who-Man." He picked up a broken metal rod, gripping it tight. Then let's fight together. They ran toward the roar of battle as the underground colony lit up with blue fire. The real war for survival had begun. The alarm's echo rolled through the glowing tunnels like thunder. Lyra sprinted through the winding halls, her tail flashing with blue light as she shouted orders in her native tongue. Jack ran close behind her, clutching a metal rod in one hand and his small scanner in the other. When they reached the open cavern, chaos had begun. The golden lights of the colony flickered wildly as shadows poured in from the tunnels, wild grrrs, twisted and angry, their eyes glowing red. They moved on all fours, snarling like beasts, their claws scraping against the stone floor. Lyra leaped onto a high platform, roaring back at them. Her people responded, forming a defensive ring around the lake. Crystals were pulled from the walls, glowing brightly as they became weapons, blades of light in Grrr hands. Jack stared, his heart pounding. "There's too many," he shouted. Lyra looked down at him, her eyes blazing. "We fight, no run." The first wave hit. Wild Grrrs crashed into the defenders like living shadows, the air filled with roars and the crack of claws against stone. Lyra jumped down into the fight, spinning and slashing with deadly grace. Each movement was precise, powerful, almost beautiful. Jack swung his rod at a creature that lunged at him. The impact sent shocks up his arm, but he didn't stop. Another beast leaped from the side and he ducked just in time. He wasn't a warrior, but adrenaline pushed him forward. Lyra saw him struggle and roared, "Jack!" Down. She leapt over him, claws glowing bright blue, and struck the attacker before it could reach him. The wild Grrr fell back, hissing as it turned to ash in the blue light. Jack looked at her in awe. "How did you— No time!" she shouted, pointing toward the upper tunnels. "They come more." Jack's scanner beeped wildly. He looked down and saw radiation spikes, massive energy coming from above. He followed the signal, tracing it to the red glow now spreading through the cave ceiling. The ground rumbled. A bright red light broke through the rock like lava. "Oh no," he whispered. "That's it. The probe. It's reacting." Lyra turned to him, blood on her arm, her breathing heavy. "What mean?" "It's the probe," Jack shouted over the chaos. "It's overloading. It's what's driving them mad." Her eyes widened. "You stop it?" He nodded. "If I can reach it." She grabbed his arm firmly. "Then we go." Lyra roared an order to her warriors, then pulled Jack toward a narrow tunnel leading upward. The red light grew brighter as they climbed. Behind them, the battle raged on. The roars, the crashes, the screams of both wild and loyal Grrrs mixing like thunder and storm. When they reached the surface, the sky was no longer blue. It glowed red like burning coals. Smoke and dust filled the air and lightning flashed across the clouds. Jack shielded his face, coughing. In the distance, through the fiery light, he saw it. The probe, standing half buried in a crater, glowing like a heart of fire. "It's out of control," he said. "The core's leaking everywhere," Lyra growled low. "Then we stop hard." They ran toward it. The ground shook beneath their feet. Energy waves burst from the probe, sending sparks into the sky. Each wave made Lyra stumble, her fur dimming with pain. "It hurts," she gasped. Jack reached for her hand. "Stay with me. You're strong, remember?" "You're a Grrr!" Her eyes flickered open again, glowing faintly. "And you, Human," she said softly, "strong too." They reached the base of the probe. Jack dropped to his knees, opening the side panel. "I need to reverse the energy flow," he muttered. "Just buy me some time." Lyra turned, facing the red fog. Dozens of wild Grrrs emerged, crawling and roaring, their eyes burning like fire. She raised her claws and roared back, loud, fierce, defiant. The ground shook under her voice. The wild ones charged. Jack worked fast, his hands trembling as he rewired the circuits. Sparks burned his skin, but he didn't stop. Come on," he shouted. Lyra fought like lightning. She moved faster than he could follow, her claws glowing bright blue. But there were too many. One of them struck her side and she stumbled, falling to her knees. "Lyra," Jack screamed. She looked up at him, bleeding but smiling weakly. "Finish it." Jack's heart pounded. He grabbed 2 loose cables and jammed them together. The probe screamed with energy, and then exploded in a flash of white light. The blast knocked him back. When he opened his eyes, the red light was gone. The air was quiet again. The sky above slowly turned blue. The wild Grrrs lay still, their red glow fading away. Jack crawled toward Lyra, his hands shaking. She lay on the ground, eyes half closed. "Hey," he whispered. We did it. It's over. Lyra smiled faintly. Whew, man. Fix, she whispered. Grrr. Proud. He held her hand tightly. Stay with me, Lyra, please. Her golden eyes softened. I stay. Always. Then the wind carried the last of the red light away. The world grew calm again. The jungle was silent, peaceful. Jack looked up at the sky, clean, clear, and full of stars returning. But beside him, Lyra's breathing was slowing. He gripped her hand tighter. Don't leave me now, he whispered. She smiled faintly, whispering one last word before her eyes closed. Grrr. The morning after the storm was silent. The red sky was gone. The air was fresh again, washed clean by the rain that had fallen during the night. Sunlight filtered through the broken clouds, soft and golden, shining over the jungle and the smoking crater where the probe once stood. Jack sat on the edge of that crater, his clothes torn, his face covered in dirt and ash. His hands trembled as he pressed them against the soft ground beside him. Lyra lay there, her silver fur dull and faint, her chest rising weakly with each breath. He had managed to stop the explosion before it consumed the planet, but the energy blast had taken almost everything out of her. She had shielded him from the last shockwave with her body, saving his life once again. Hey, Jack whispered softly, brushing away a strand of hair that fell across her glowing eyes. You did it, Lyra. You saved your people. Her lips moved slowly, a faint smile forming. Homan fix. Grrr safe, she whispered, her voice weak but calm. Jack smiled through his tears. Yeah, we fixed it together. The air around them shimmered faintly as the golden light from the sun touched her skin. In the distance, the jungle began to hum again, the soft songs of alien birds, the gentle rustle of wind in glowing leaves. Life was returning. Footsteps came from behind. Jack turned and saw several Grrrs emerging from the trees, the survivors from the colony. Among them was the elder, Lyra's father. His golden eyes widened as he saw his daughter lying still beside the human. He rushed forward, dropping to his knees beside her. His large hands trembled as he touched her face. Lyra, he whispered, voice breaking. Jack lowered his head. She saved me, saved all of us. The elder looked at him for a long time. There was no anger now, only respect. She do what true Grrr must, he said softly. Protect life. Lyra's eyes fluttered open at his voice. She looked at her father, then at Jack. No cry, she said faintly. We live, we win. The elder took her hand gently. Rest, my daughter, he said. You are light of Grrr. But Lyra shook her head weakly and turned her gaze toward Jack. Not just me, she said softly. He's her too, Jack blinked. What? She smiled faintly. Grrr mean, guardian, you, guard life, you heart brave, you, my Grrr. Tears welled in his eyes as he squeezed her hand. Then I'll be your Grrr, Lyra, always. The elder bowed his head. Around them, the other Grrrs lowered their claws in respect. For the first time they bowed not to their own but to a human. Hours passed. The wounded were treated, the dead honored. The probe's remains were buried under a mound of silver stones, its energy core sealed deep in the earth. Life slowly began to return to normal. Jack helped rebuild what he could, fixing tools, repairing damaged light crystals, teaching the Grrrs to control the machines without harming the forest. They watched him with awe. He was different, soft-spoken, patient but strong. Lyra recovered slowly, her strength returning day by day. When she could finally walk again, she found Jack near the lake, fixing a damaged water purifier. You work always, she said playfully. Jack smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. Old habit. Humans like to fix things, she laughed softly. You fix me too. He turned toward her, smiling warmly. You fixed me first. For a long moment they stood together in silence, watching the reflection of the glowing crystals ripple across the lake. Then Lyra reached out, gently taking his hand. You stay, she said quietly. Jack looked at her. You mean, here? She nodded. Home now. No more skyfire. No more alone. Jack thought about Earth, about the stars waiting above. But then he looked at her, at the calm golden light in her eyes. For the first time since leaving his planet, he felt peace. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I'll stay. Lyra's smile grew brighter. She purred softly, that same strange sound he had heard the first day they met. Then you, my Grrr, forever, she whispered. Jack laughed softly. I still don't understand what that means. She leaned close, her voice soft and warm. It means heart that protect, he smiled. Then I guess that's me. The jungle wind carried their laughter across the lake. The colony lights flickered like stars under the earth, alive once more. The Grrrs would rebuild, and this time they would not fear the sky. As night fell, Jack and Lyra stood at the edge of the glowing forest. Above them, the stars returned, clear and bright, just like the first time he looked up as a child on Earth. He reached up, pointing to the sky. See that one? He said softly. That's my home star. Lyra looked up, eyes wide with wonder. Far, she whispered. Yeah, Jack said, but not too far to remember. She purred softly, leaning her head on his shoulder. You home now, human grrr. And for the first time, Jack believed it. The human who fell from the sky had become a guardian among stars. And the word that once confused him, grrr, was now a name that would live forever in both their worlds.